Embla has been known to be the #1 DPS ever since her release, which was well over a year now. But recently, there is an Esper that has taken her spot as the best DPS. Before we get to the new best DPS, let's briefly go over Embla's history. She was released in 23rd of February 2023. The only endgame PvE content we had at the time was Dark Starlord, which all of you know now as Falsetto Fantasy. The moment she was released, she was already the best DPS in the game. She was unique in a way that her nukes are not based off of her skills, but the mechanics of the Corrupted Seed, meaning as long as you can proc Corrupted Seed, her nukes has no cooldown. And the nuke is 300% of her attack. However, she did come with a few problems early on. We didn't have much Espers that worked well with her, specifically Espers to pop her seed, Ayo, pause. So we ended up using Espers like Gabrielle or Ahmed for the hit count. However, these Espers are not good enough for her because they needed to take their turn in order to provide with the hit count. Another issue with her was her buff uptime. She was taking too many turns due to Corrupted Seed popping, that no supports in the game could provide 100% attack uptime buff to her. Fast forward to the future, one of her best support got released, which is Feng Shun. Not only does he provide her with the best form of hit count to pop the seeds, he also provided her with near 100% buff uptime due to how his skills works. Then we got even more supports for her like Fushi, Chu Yao, and she got even better with each support and even reached her peak with R6 Sakura's release. That is until recently. And I'm sure you know who exactly I'm talking about. The Esper that has surpassed Embla is Sloan. I haven't really talked about her that much outside of just the patch notes. And the reason is because I still haven't got her first copy, so I haven't tested her out. But if you take a look at the leaderboards, she's everywhere in Falsetto Fantasy just because of how much damage she does. Her passive is what makes her completely busted. When Eidetic is active, inflicts Soul Sever on the enemies before they take action or when they take hits. When they gain speed down or freeze, Sloan inflicts 4 stacks of Soul Sever on them. If Sloan has Eidetic after attacking with S1, performs a pursuit attack with Severing Strike, and Severing Strike is attacks one enemy 2 times. Damage per hit is goes to 150% of damage. If the target has Soul Sever, it deals extra 50% attack. This passive right here allows her to hit for 300% of damage. If the enemy has Soul Sever, it's going to do 350% of damage. That's a lot. But if you happen to have her R4, it's gonna add an additional 200%. So whenever you have the S1 and you have the Eidetic buff, you're gonna do a total of 120% from the S1 plus 300% because this is 2 hits, and then plus another 50 because the target has Soul Sever, so that's 470, and then with the R4 that's another 200%, so you're doing 670% damage. Part of the reason why she's really good is also because she has one of the best debuff in the game for bossing contents, is the Soul Sever. Speed minus 5% can stack up to 10 times, so the boss will have minus 50% speed, and that's gonna be huge for you. So when looking at the Falsetto Fantasy, she is pretty much everywhere. Those who have her at either R2 or R4 will use her because of the amount of damage and also the debuff that she provides to the team. So right now, Gabriel with 100 million in Phobiter and at R4 Sloan. This is not even maxed out Divinate, and this team scores like 50 million or 40 million, something like that. We also have Disobey with an R2 only Sloan, and only Divinate 1 by the way. Divinate 1 and R2, and he's already scoring 88 million. Pretty insane. Another R4 Sloan. Now let's take a look at Sonica. In Sonica, she is not the best, but that's mainly because Sonica only relies on the team 1, so her contribution to the team is not that high compared to like the other 2 bosses, but she is still very much usable. Yeah, I guess in Sonica people don't really care about their team 2 or team 3 because no one is using her in their team 2 or team 3. She does have multi-hits on her skills. From her S1, she does like I think 2 hits. No, 1 hit, and then her passive does like 2 hits. She's not being used in Team 1, which you maybe could slot her in for the speed down, but Team 1 right now is pretty much stacked to the brim, so it's really hard to slot her in. Okay, so for Sonica, there's not that many teams running her, but for Dark Starlord, she is in pretty much everyone's team that already has her. So we got 86 million score in Dark Starlord. That is completely absurd with R4 Sloan in the rank 1. Another R4 Sloan. Another R4 Sloan. R6 Sloan. Yeah, pretty much anyone who has her either at R4 or R2 is going to use her because she is doing an insane amount of damage. Let's take a look at some of these runs. The rank 1, we'll take a look at the score of the Team 2, and then also we'll take a look at the score of Sloan in Team 3. Alright, so Team 1 scored about 3.48 million. But before we get into Sloan's team, let's talk a bit about Embla. At this point, like I said, Embla has pretty much gotten all of her best supports. We got Fushi, which is her best partner. Every time Fushi does anything, she will either pursue with her S3 or S1. And then we have Feng Shun that will make up for her buff uptime, while also providing the hit count necessary for you to pop the seed. We also have Jingwei that can also help with the seed count. And then Sakura is just an upgrade to the team. Sakura is not necessarily the best support for Embla, but she's good for Embla for the sole purpose that she's adding more speed and also more attack to Embla, right? But yeah, pretty much at this point we have all of the best supports for Embla. And Embla has been pretty much the rank 1 DPS for PvE, bossing contents that can be debuffed. Which, to be honest with you, I didn't think she would last this long as the number 1 DPS. Because what Embla has is just pure DPS. Let's take a look at Yunchuan, for example. They were released pretty much like almost back to back. Yunchuan was released first and then Embla got released. But the difference between Embla and Yunchuan is that Yunchuan, when he was first released, he has his damage aspect with his R2. But most importantly, he has uptime with his Seer debuff. He has crucial debuffs as well with the speed down. He has crucial buffs as well with the speed up for your entire team. But again, at this point, Yunchuan's damage is pretty much outshined by most DPS, right? But Embla only has DPS in her kit. She doesn't have any utilities for your team except for like cleanse, but the cleanse is not really her main part. And outside of the cleanse, she doesn't really offer anything other than DPS. But the fact that her numbers are just completely insane, it has allowed her to be in the, not even in the meta, right? She is the number 1 DPS for a very long time, for almost 2 years, I think. So yeah, the difference between Embla and Yunchuan is huge. Embla has damage, but his damage has been falling off. But the reason why he's still in the meta is due to uptime. And I've mentioned uptime being very important for Espers to stay relevant. And Yunchuan does provide a very high uptime on Seer debuff. Again, it's crazy how she can maintain the rank 1 DPS just solely from her multipliers alone and not because of her utility or whatever. Okay, so Embla's team scored roughly 39 million minus Team 1's team score, which means we can already tell that Team 3 or Sloan's team got 43 million by itself. And this is Dark Starlord, mind you, where Embla is the best in, because there's 3 enemies. So Sloan is not even the best in this boss right here, because her damage is single target, right? It doesn't really matter if there's more enemies or not. Sloan mostly focuses her damage on the main boss. So as you can see, Sloan is doing 1 million damage, 200,000 with her S1, and then with the follow-up is doing 889,000. So 1 million damage every single time she hit S1 when she has the Eidetic buff. And it's not just from pure damage alone, she's also providing the debuff with the Soul Sever. So the boss is now 50% slower. When you pair that up with speed down, that's going to be 50% slower, while also stacking up with the additional 30%. So the boss is roughly 65% slow. So the boss only has 35% speed when you stack up 10 Soul Sever plus a speed down. It might seem like the boss is still very fast, but that's mainly due to the fact that when you rack up a lot of points, the boss can go up to above 600 speed. 35% speed off of 600 speed is still a lot of speed. Yeah, it's still really fast, and that's the reason why you still get outsped by the boss. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not doing anything even though you get outsped by the boss. Putting the boss at 35% speed means that you get more turns in general for your allies to move, and the boss gets less turn, right? So yeah, let's talk about this team real quick. Sloan also has pretty much all of her best supports surrounding her. Maybe Liam could be swapped out for a new unit in the future that doesn't need to take an extra turn for that new unit to proc and assist on Sloan. But for now, this is going to be probably the best team for Sloan. The supports for Embla and the supports for Sloan is pretty much identical. You want units that can help Sloan proc her S1 multiple times. So we have Chuyao with his buff, Ggez buff. Whenever he gets paired up with the highest attack in the team, whenever he S1, then the highest attack unit will also use their S1, right? And then we have Shenpin for all of the buffs that she provides, but most importantly with the assist as well. When she casts any of her skills, then Sloan will also be able to S1 proc. And then we have Haley to provide Sloan with the relief set, so that you can use Sloan with relief set plus Thor set. And then lastly we have Liam, which again pretty much the same concept as with Embla. Whenever he pairs up with the highest attack in the team, the unit will proc and assist attack whenever he S1s. So yeah, that's Sloan. She is crazy right now. You don't really need her to be at R4, but R4 is where her damage is at max. But for her to start being usable, you need her to be at R2. Otherwise, the freeze on all of your units before her R2 is gonna take a toll on your score even more. So as you can see, this team is scoring 43 million by itself. It's pretty insane. And this Sloan is not even maxed out, right? So yeah, that's about it. Embla has finally been dethroned. I still have yet to get my Sloan because, you know, my luck is pretty trash for this summer pass right here. I'm still at 6 draws away from the last one. I'm kind of tempted to buy the summer pass, but I think I'm probably going to skip it, even though it's really good. I'll probably just slowly get her to R2 and R4 from Club Wishes and also from my Ripple boxes, because I do have a full copy of Resonance for her. Yeah, I have 13 Ripple boxes that I can use for her copies. But yeah, that's about it. Ciao.